Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Member Spotlight interview. My name is Richard C. Wilson, founder of the Family Office Club. And today we have with us Jean Meyer from Mainstar Trust. Welcome, Jean.
Hello, how are you?
Great, thanks for being here. So what does Mainstar Trust do? Is there kind of like a one-liner that would describe what you do?
Right, Mainstar is a custodian for self-directed retirement accounts. And so that allows our account holders some flexibility in what they're investing in because per self-directed, we allow alternative investments in their IRAs.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, let's say somebody missed the correction from March until now, or maybe they captured some of those gains and they say, look, I don't know which way the stock market's going. I wish I could do a real estate deal or invest in this alternative investment fund. They could take a portion of their IRA funds or all of them and turn it into a self-directed IRA type setup potentially. And you guys help them do that even if they don't have that set up now. You'll help them get that in place.
Absolutely. If your money is already in an IRA, we'll help you with the transfer. You just need to open up an account at Mainstar Trust and then we deal with your current custodian. If your money is in a prior employer's 401k plan, you can roll the money over to an IRA and then just start the same process that you would with the transfer.
Okay, great. And I know you've been around for a while, so I'm sure you have more than just 20 or 30 investors on your platform. How many investors do you guys work with today?
We are custodian for over 80,000 self-directed IRAs. Total investment value is over $8 billion.
Wow. Okay. So those listening who may want to convert into a self-directed IRA, but maybe they also are a principal of a private equity firm, hedge fund, a real estate firm, how else can they be interacting with you? You know, they hear 80,000 investors congregated in one spot, and I'm sure they lean forward a little bit saying, how do I become best friends with Jean? So
right.
How does that work?
Right. So if you're a sponsor of an investment, we can't give investment advice because we are a regulated entity and we're not a fiduciary, but we can certainly help the sponsor in a couple of different ways, really. So one of the ways that we can do is work with you ahead of time, get your investment on our system so that once a new account comes in and an investor is ready, they can go right away. And we're not making any type of due diligence on the investment. We just want to make sure it's something we can hold on our books. We have all the paperwork. We want to make sure that there's not any concerns about, trying to get a valuation. If in the IRS says that at least annually, every asset in an IRA must be valued. So we try to work with the sponsor to say, hey, you're going to get a letter from me. This is all I need. Be aware of it so that you can get that ball rolling ahead of time. So once we get all that set up, then once the investors come in and want to get in that sponsor's asset or invest in there, it's ready to go.
Okay.
The other way we could help a sponsor is we do have a guest blog program that's used for educational purposes. It's just 1,500 words, maybe a 6-minute video. There's an opportunity for that to go on our website as well in an educational situation.
Right. Okay, got it. And for those who are familiar with self-directed IRAs, how have you grown to 80,000 investors or IRA accounts? Because a lot of people I know in your space are much smaller. So obviously you're doing a lot of things right, and you have a few things that are unique about your platform. What are those things?
Right. Well, we try to work, closely with both individual investors direct. We also have relationships with advisor or RIA firms that maybe direct some business our way. And we also work with a lot of investments. Some of our growth came with real estate investment trusts when those were popular, more in the past. But we also have some third-party groups that we work with, advisors or administrators that are building account bases as well. So we pretty diverse in who we work with.
Okay. And what's kind of your value add process that has also led to momentum? Is there a process for either onboarding a client or working with counterparties that's been key?
Well, one of the things we pride ourselves on and get a lot of great feedback on is our customer service and direct contact with account holders that should they call. I mean, we have ways for people to communicate with us electronically, but if you were to call our customer service line, you're going to talk to an individual. There isn't going to be systematic prompts that lead you through the process. So we're always trying to improve that process and work with our account holders and, you know, increase our education on that. The other thing is that our fees are very competitive. We charge basically an account fee and activity fees. We don't go by market value. So if your IRA is worth $1 million or it's has only $10,000 worth of investments in, our fee is going to be the same. So, and many of our competitors don't do it that way, but you know, since we don't give investment advice, the market value to us doesn't impact it. So we try to keep our fees low that way.
Right, makes sense. Okay, great. And what would be the best due diligence question that somebody should ask, you know, any self-directed IRA when they're looking at maybe using them? Maybe nobody asked you this question, but what should they be asking to conduct due diligence on you?
Well, it's important to know that, you know, the IRA custodian, while it is a regulated entity, it's not going to be analyzing your investments and letting you know if it's good or bad. You know, are you sure you want to do that? You know, we may think that, boy, that investment's offering you 50% interest. Maybe that's not going to happen in today's world. Excuse me, but that's not our role. So I think it's important for them to know what our role is. And that's really just to safekeep their investments, make sure we send out the tax forms that need to go out, whether there's a distribution and the form is 1099, you know, tax form, or whether it's the 5498 that goes out, and just making sure that we're processing and keeping track of what's held in their IRA.
Right, makes sense. Okay. And my last question is, you know, what $100,000 piece of advice do you have for people listening here? You know the IRA space, the self-directed IRA space very well. A lot of people listening to this have heard about it, but haven't taken the time to set it up yet. And maybe with lack of travel during COVID, they could actually get around to doing that right now. So, you know, what should people know? What's your number one piece of advice for this space?
I think it's to be thorough. To, you know, if you're the investor, the account holder side, know what you can and cannot do in the IRA. So one of the cans is you can invest in alternative investments. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it's just the mutual funds or a CD or, you know, common stock. But there's a whole world of other investments out there, LLCs, real estate investments, private notes, private stock that they can invest in. The cannot is kind of the flip side, what you can't invest in, collectibles, and to be aware and understand what a prohibited transaction is. So, and so, you know, depending on what they invest in, that pops up more, but it's important to know. Okay. And if you're an advisor, or not an advisor, if you are an asset, those sponsors that you talked about a little bit ago, it's important to know that there are a couple of tweaks or quirks that IRAs need to do. And one is what I mentioned earlier, the asset has to be valued at least annually. So they're going to be getting, you know, knocked on the door by either the custodian like Mainstar Trust, or maybe the account holder to say, hey, this value has to be submitted.
Right.
The other important thing I think for a sponsor to realize is that depending on the IRA, if it's a traditional IRA, there is a requirement once somebody becomes 72 years old now to get a required minimum distribution. And if your investment doesn't have annual or any liquidity into it, how are you going to make that happen if it needs to be? And there's a way to do it through, you know, re-registering an asset in kind distribution, but it helps knowing those things ahead of time, and then your headaches go away after that.
Sure, it makes sense. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I heard anyone ever bring that issue up about the required distributions. But if it's an alternative investment, how liquid is it going to be? So
right, there's a little quirk to it, and obviously RMDs are in 2020, have been relieved from, but it's still something to keep a thought about going forward.
right, for sure. Okay, great. Well, then, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you or Mainstar Trust? What do you prefer?
People can call, they can email, they can go to our website, and there's a direct link. So our website is www.mainstartrust.com. It has our phone number, our 800 number. So our call center is open 7:30 to 4:30 Central Time, and there's always somebody there to get a hold of.
Great. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time here today, Jean, and I look forward to working directly with you between the Family Office Club and Mainstar Trust. I think there's some ways for us to be keeping in touch as we both grow. So I appreciate your time here today.
Absolutely. Thank you.